Basketball Society.
What is poppin', everybody? It's Alex Fishbein back again one more time by way of Basketball Society. This is Fisch's Friday Rant, and this week we'll be talking about the Golden State Warriors and their start to the season so far. The comparison of the Golden State Warriors and the 95-96 Bulls, as well as the Houston Rockets and Kevin McHale. So, let's get things kicked off. If you guys didn't watch the game last night, by the game I mean Clippers versus Warriors, I kind of feel bad for you because that game was crazy. Especially if you were awake last night and you weren't watching the game, I really hope you had a good reason not to. So, what had happened was, in the first quarter, the Clippers came out. They looked really focused. They looked like they were going to just do everything under their power to stomp all over Golden State and give them their first loss. And everything was working for them in the first quarter. The second quarter came around. They still kept it close. I think the Warriors only won the second quarter by about 2-3 points. Then the second half started. The second half was a completely different story. The Warriors just completely flipped the switch. They took the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, they just completely went crazy. Steph Curry came back with a vengeance. He started just raining threes. I mean, Iguodala was hitting his threes. They were passing the ball around. They were getting excited. All of a sudden, the stadium sounded like it was a home game for the Warriors, and it just, for lack of better terms, it was crazy. I mean, what the Warriors are doing so far is just, I haven't seen it in the years that I've been watching basketball. Like, obviously, back in 95-96, the Bulls were doing that kind of thing. They went on and had the record for best record in a season. But I was like 1-2 years old then, so I wasn't really watching basketball back then. Obviously, I go back and watch clips from all of it, and yeah, it was also insane. I mean, you had one of the greatest players of all time, Michael Jordan. There was Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman, and they had a great, great team. But this team right now, the Warriors, they're doing it in a way that other teams haven't done it. We've all talked about how jump shooting teams aren't like the favorite to win championships. I know Barkley went off about it all the time last season, and then they made those shirts that, said like, Barkley 0, jump shooting teams 1, whatever. And this team being led by Steph Curry, who is on an absolute tear to start the season, is just running like a well-oiled machine. And the scary part is they don't even have their normal head coach. They have Luke Walton filling in because Steve Kerr's still out with health problems. And that's crazy. Like, I know Luke Walton has still been there as the assistant coach. He still knows, like, what's going on. But you don't have your normal guy in Steve Kerr who coached them to a championship last season. So, it's like, even with the coach is, like, interchangeable because this team knows how to play together. They have great team chemistry. They pass the ball, share the ball all the time. Steph Curry can make pretty much any shot that he takes, and then you got a surrounding cast of all 3-point shooters except like Ezeli and Bogut. It's crazy. And with things like last night where they erased a 23-point deficit to come back and beat the Clippers by 7, that's just insane. And the way that I can describe it the best of like how this team works and how crazy their offense really is, it has been tweeted a lot, and I've said it a lot as well. no lead seems like a safe lead against Golden State. Like the Clippers had a 23-point lead, and I'm like, Golden State can still easily get back into this. Just let Steph Curry hit a couple threes. Let him get a couple passes in there to someone for like a dunk or maybe a corner three. And then all of a sudden, the whole team is feeling it. They're all on fire. And then they all start getting in a rhythm where you can pump fake. Somebody might come flying at you. You dish it off to the next guy. He makes the shot. Pump fake. You're open. You take the shot. You make it. Like, it's like one person on this team, if they start hitting shots, then the whole team is like, oh, now we can make shots. And they start draining it. And then it's like all of a sudden they make like 40 points. And you're just like, where the hell did this come from? What happened? I thought they were just losing by 20-something. Now you're telling me they're ahead by 5? Like, this team is just crazy. Their offense is one of the most high-powered offenses we've seen in recent memory. I mean, even the Heat team of LeBron, Wade, and Bosh weren't scoring at this kind of, well, 1, efficiency, and 2, volume. It's just, I've run out of words to describe it. It's it's just a whole different level than the rest of the league. And I mean, one question that I think is actually pretty funny. A lot of people asking, what do you think will happen first? The Warriors will lose a game or the Sixers will win a game? And you actually got to take your time to think about it. And a lot of people have been saying the Sixers will win a game first before the Warriors lose a game. And that in itself says a lot about how this team is running, how amazing this team's offense is. And that's not even talking about how good their defense is, because their defense is also a top 10 defense in defensive rating. So how do you combat that? And all right, so going along with this, there have been comparisons and a lot of people arguing who would win in a series or who would win in a game, the 95-96 Bulls or this current Warriors team. Ron Harper came out and said that the Bulls would sweep them. Rodman just came out recently and said that I don't care if they go 81-1. We did it first, and we'd beat them. Barkley has said that if this team played in any other era, they wouldn't even be close to this kind of record because, like, in the older NBA with Jordan and all them, he was like, they'd get abused. Like, the bad boy Pistons would just break them in half, is pretty much what he was saying. And while I do see what they're saying, because there's a lot of different players, there's a lot of different teams that wouldn't fit in another era. Like, there are some guys right now that we look at and say, like, he's a great player. But if you put him in, just say put him in the Michael Jordan era where hand checking and stuff was allowed, where a guy was always allowed to just have his hand right there, right where you're dribbling, right where you're trying to move the ball, and he's allowed to be on your hip the entire time. It's going to be a lot tougher for a lot of the guys now, like James Harden, for instance, who thrives off of going to the hoop and getting fouled. Well, when you had a more physical type of game where you weren't getting as many foul calls, where guys were going up and demolishing you and sometimes not even getting called for it, he wouldn't really thrive in that kind of game. Because he gets his bulk of the points at the line. So if you throw him in like I said, like the Jordan era or something like that, the bad boy Pistons, I mean, Rick Mahorn would just throw him to the ground and be like, all right, well, you're not scoring tonight. It's just, it's how basketball works. There's always different eras moving on. Just like right now, we're kind of in that little small ball era. And this small ball kind of team wouldn't thrive in other eras. Like Barkley was saying, they would have to go up against guys like Olajuwon and the bad boy Pistons, and there was still like, I mean, say they faced like the Showtime Lakers with Magic Johnson. You expect me to believe that Steph Curry can play lockdown defense on Magic Johnson, who's like a foot taller than him? I mean, I'm not saying that Magic Johnson could keep up with Steph Curry the whole time, because Steph Curry is very quick, but it goes both ways. And you also got to worry about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the skyhook and everything, and being in the middle of the lane, and also him on defense as well. It's always going to happen where a lot of these teams, a lot of these players will thrive in the current era that they're in, but maybe not another era. But there are the all-time great guys, the superstars, that could go to another era. Take LeBron, for instance. He plays a more punishing style of game where he can back a guy down when he wants to. He can take a guy to the low post. He can bang down on the boards. He can bang on the post and still get his points, as well as taking it out for a jump shot. He could still play in other eras that were more physical. But when you got a guy who is, I don't want to say Curry's shying away from the physical aspect, but he's thriving in the areas where that doesn't really take place. Well, I shouldn't say take place, like it doesn't really come into play, because when you're shooting threes, there's not really many guys who are gonna like jump in your face and try and like hit you in the body, hit you in the arms, that kind of stuff. And so my personal prediction for this 95-96 Bulls against the current Warriors, I would pick the Bulls. I don't think it'd be a sweep. Let's take a 7-game series, for instance. I don't think it'd be a sweep. I think it would be like a 4-2 kind of series, kind of like the finals when the Warriors took on the Cavs. That's what I believe. I mean, now the thing is with this Warriors team, they're also a decent rebounding team, because when you have an off night and you're a shooting team, you're gonna need to get second chance points. You have to, and you have to limit the other team to one shot. But when you're going up against a team like that Bulls team with a guy like Dennis Rodman, who really didn't even care about scoring, just went out and got like close to 20 boards a night, it'll be pretty difficult to keep that kind of thing up. And then to try and still be a top 10 defense against guys like Jordan, Pippen, and their supporting cast. Steve Kerr, even, for instance, who could also hit the three. It's obviously going to be tough, and I really wish we could actually see that real game take place. I mean, that would be so awesome. But I guess we'll have to stick to 2K simulations, which I am in the process of getting that, like, that whole thing going, of doing, like, an entire series instead of just one game. I think it was CBS Sports I think it was Zach Harper did a 2K simulation of it, and it had the Warriors winning, but I'm pretty sure it was only one game, and I don't know, I feel like one game isn't really a good enough simulation to understand really like what that kind of thing is like. But I'll definitely be working on that and get that all hooked up, probably record some of it too, see what that's like. Anyway, moving on to the last topic, the Rockets. I believe that Kevin McHale was unfairly fired way too early. I can't put this on the coach for what's going on in Houston. These guys are just quitting on themselves and each other, let alone quitting on the coach. So, granted, the coach is like a glorified motivator. He has to be able to motivate his team to play at their highest level, and he has to be able to be there to guide them to where they want to go. However, if you have a team with really big egos and really big attitudes like Dwight Howard, James Harden, Ty Lawson, those guys, no matter what kind of motivating you try, these guys will always believe that they think they know better. Now, I'm not coming out and saying like they're bad people, like these guys are clowns and all that kind of stuff that a lot of people say. I'm not saying that at all. It's just that sometimes they just get too confident in themselves. And the thing was, so last season, Harden comes out and says, oh, like, I should have been MVP. Okay, he had a very, very good argument to be MVP last season. Curry still took it home. I mean, I'm not mad about that. Curry definitely also deserved it as well as Harden. But this season, like, you would think if you felt you should have been MVP last season, you would come into this season with working on your game all throughout the summer. You come in better shape. You come in with a chip on your shoulder to prove to everybody that MVP should have been yours by winning the MVP this year and being an even better player than you were the last season. Which Steph Curry did. James Harden did not. Harden came into this season looking in worse shape than last season, which I'm not saying like he's in bad shape. He's just in bad shape in NBA standards, which is still in worlds better shape than like the average person like myself. But he came in worse shape. It really didn't look like he worked on his game that much, because there wasn't really anything different in his game. He didn't really add any extra moves. He didn't really like add any extra, I don't know, like shots. Like he didn't like improve in percentages so far. He's been like in the cellar as far as like 3-point percentage. And then you have a guy like Curry who like absolutely lit up the scoreboard last season, starts lighting it up even more this season. Like, they won the championship, and they look hungrier than the Rockets, who only got a second seed and lost in the Western Conference Finals. And the thing is, this Rockets team has been adding more fuel to the fire for the Warriors with all this stuff like, well, I mean, the whole they got lucky thing was like everybody, like pretty much the entire league, all the fans, everyone said the Golden State got lucky, which added fuel to the fire. As well as Harden talking about, oh, I should have won MVP. That's obviously adding fuel to the fire as well. But the fact that you come out and say that, you come out and say, oh, I should have been MVP, and then you don't back it up at all the season after, it makes it look like, okay, you had one really good season. What is going to make me believe you can sustain that kind of season over multiple seasons? What is going to make me believe that you can get an MVP after that season? Nothing right now. He had a couple good games since like the absolutely terrible start. He had a couple. Meanwhile, Steph Curry's over there having a historic start to the season. One that's being compared to Michael Jordan. And he won the MVP last season. Why is he hungrier than you, Harden? I just want to know. Because it really doesn't look like you're real... I don't know how this got personal. This isn't supposed to be personal. But I don't know why it really looks like he's hungrier after he won it. And you're just saying, oh, I should have been MVP. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. How about you go out and do something about it and win it maybe this season or the next season? How about you go out there and beat the Warriors and go on to the finals and win a championship yourself? Then we can say, oh, maybe you should have been the MVP. Maybe you can be another MVP. Maybe you can win a ring. Right now, everyone else is just laughing like, huh, you think you should have been MVP? Please. ridiculous, man. Step your game up. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Fisch's Friday Rant by way of Basketball Society, like usual. Please check out the website, www.basketball-society.com, as well as checking out the Twitter at @bballsociety_. I am here every Wednesday and Friday. There will be podcasts next week over the Thanksgiving holiday. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.